Our forefathers' intellect and inventiveness have shaped the history of human civilization, and nowhere is this more clear than in ancient China's astonishing creations. Ancient China, the cradle of civilization, was a hotbed of creativity and scientific growth, spawning technologies that not only altered the ancient world, but also continue to influence our lives today. Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new video on the channel. Today, we are going to talk about China's ancient inventions that shaped the modern world. Before we get started with the video, don't forget to smash the like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get started. Papermaking. Prior to the discovery of paper, people wrote on other materials such as wood, stone, and bone. Around 2200 BC, the Egyptians discovered papyrus, a form of reed that could be used to write on by overlapping thin, water-soaked strips. The word paper comes from papyrus. Cai Lun, or Chai Lun, an imperial court official, created a paper in ancient China in 105 AD, during the reign of Han Emperor Heidi. However, a recent archaeological examination reveals that paper was invented 200 years ago and employed by the ancient Chinese military. Cai Lun utilized mulberry tree bark and pressed the fibers into a sheet. Later on, he realized that adding hemp and old fish nets to the pulp increased the paper's quality. Paper quickly became the preferred writing material, and it only took a few years for it to be widely used throughout China. Printing. Printing was another significant invention of ancient China. Woodblock printing, the first form of printing, emerged during the Tang Dynasty. This entailed cutting a whole page of text into a wooden block, inking it, then pressing it onto paper. Later, during the Song Dynasty, Sheng developed movable type printing, which entailed carving individual characters into little blocks that could be changed for different pages of text. These printing techniques enabled the mass manufacturing of literature, which contributed considerably to the spread of knowledge and culture. Gunpowder. The first chemical explosive, known as gunpowder or black powder, was created using sulfur, charcoal, and potassium nitrate, saltpeter. Gunpowder was not a spontaneous creation. Since the middle of the 1st century AD, the Chinese have utilized saltpeter in a variety of medical therapies. Gunpowder was invented during the Tang Dynasty in the 9th century, but the first written formula was not discovered until the Song Dynasty in the 11th century. The Chinese used gunpowder and gunpowder-based weapons for military defense. Magnetic compass. The compass, invented during the Han Dynasty, was originally used for divination and geomancy, but it quickly found its way into navigation. The compass was a valuable tool that helped seamen traverse the oceans more accurately, opening up new trade routes and facilitating exploration. This invention had a significant impact on human history by facilitating worldwide exploration and trade. Silk. Silk was invented around the 4th millennium BC during the Neolithic period. Aside from apparel, silk was widely employed in a range of industries, including writing, fishing, and musical instruments. Silk was primarily utilized by emperors and upper-class society, but it eventually expanded to the rest of the population. Silk evolved into something more than a commodity throughout the Han era, 202 BC, 220 AD. It was presented as a reward to a deserving Chinese citizen or government official. Silk became a significant aspect of the Chinese economy. Around 300 AD, Japan and the Middle East began cultivating silk, and the Crusades introduced the concept of silk manufacture to Western Europe. This led to an economic boom, but the value and exports of Chinese silk began to decline. Currently, China controls the premium silk market. Tea production. Shennong, the Chinese monarch, developed tea in ancient China in 2737 BC. Shennong preferred to sip hot water. One day, while marching, He and his army came to a halt, and his servant prepared some boiling water for him. A brown leaf fell into the river, causing the water to turn brown. The servant gave it to the emperor, who sipped it and found it delightful. Tea was utilized as medicine throughout the Han Dynasty and as a social drink beginning with the Tang Dynasty, 600 R 18907 AD. Tea was made differently in ancient China than it is now. Tea leaves were processed and compacted into cakes. The dry tea cake known as brick tea was ground using a stone mortar. The tea cake powder was then either cooked in a kettle or mixed with hot water. It was then served as a hot drink. White tea, compressed tea, was created during the Tang Dynasty and gathered in early spring while the tea leaves were still silver needles. Porcelain. Porcelain was not a recent invention. An old type of porcelain existed during the Shang Dynasty, 1600 to 1046 BC. It was perfected during the Tang Dynasty and later transported to the Middle East. During the Song Dynasty, 960 to 1279 AD, porcelain production became highly structured and achieved unprecedented heights. By the Ming Dynasty, 1368–1644 AD, porcelain had been exported to Europe, Africa, and Asia via the Silk Road. The compass. The Chinese considered south to be the cardinal direction, and the earliest compass was fashioned with a lodestone pointing south. This was known as the South Pointer. Lodestone is a form of mineral magnetite that aligns with the Earth's magnetic field. The ancient Chinese realized that a hung lodestone could rotate freely and point to the magnetic poles. During the Han Dynasty, it was primarily employed for geomancy and fate-telling. The Chinese discovered in the 11th century, during the Song Dynasty, that the lodestone, which was largely used for divination, could also be used to orient travelers. Alcoholic beverages. Beer consumption began in ancient China, roughly 9,000 years ago, during the Neolithic period. They utilized rice, hawthorn, honey, and grapes to produce the beverage. Yi Di and Du Kong of the Xia dynasty popularized beer with 4 to 5% alcohol content. Several bronze vessels that survived from the Shang period show that they originally carried alcohol, iron and steel smelting. During the Paleolithic period, the Chinese employed stone arrowheads for fishing and hunting. During the Neolithic period, battles arose between various groups, and the Chinese began to transform their agricultural and fishing equipment into lethal weapons. Bronze smelting was developed throughout the Shang and Zhou dynasties, resulting in various weaponry and farming tools. During the Zhou dynasty, 1050 BC 256 BC, ancient China experienced an Iron Age, in which iron was employed to make weapons, farming implements, and household items. During the Han Dynasty, private iron production was banned, and the state began to monopolize the iron smelting business. Acupuncture. Acupuncture was practiced in ancient China as far back as the Paleolithic period, according to archaeological evidence. China has uncovered a variety of materials used as medical implements, including stone knives, bamboo, and bone needles. Acupuncture was transformed during the reign of Huangdi, the Yellow Emperor, 2697–2597 BC. The Neijing is the earliest text of Chinese medicine, written between 305 and 204 BC. It comprises a discussion between Huangdi and his physicist Qi Bo regarding the entire scope of Chinese medical arts. The Silk Road. The Silk Road was an ancient commercial route that connected Asia with the Mediterranean. The Silk Road's history dates back to the Han period. The name Silk Road originated from the profitable silk business, which shipped silk all over the world. The Silk Road was 6,400 miles long and was seen as a significant development that allowed the silk industry to thrive. That's the end of the video. I hope you liked it. If you did, let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And do not forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.